Hello, welcome to Whittle Waffle episode 5. Can you believe it? I'm Stacey Whittle, and that's about as much of an introduction I do, really. In fact, that's the only introduction I think I've ever done. Get me profesh. So, how are you? It's a weird old time we're living in at the minute. I've just put some makeup on for the first time in a couple of weeks to come and talk to you, but I am still wearing my yoga pants. You can't see, and I don't care. So, it is strange times. Strange times. I hope everyone's well. I hope your family's well. I hope you're less enraged by cyclists on the pavement than I am. Had an incident with a cyclist last week, and then I rang my biggest daughter, who told us that she's been out cycling on the pavements, and I'm like, why on the pavement? It's an offence. Get on the road. And she went, oh, I can't cycle on the road, Mum, it's illegal, I haven't got a helmet. I'm like, it's just illegal for you to be on the path. Why are you thinking one's better than the other? Walk. So yeah, so my Raji side is coming out a little bit in things like that. People walking too close to me kids. But there's lots of really nice things happening in the world, like last week when we went for our walk along the cliff where we live, and it's not a cliff, it's a bit of a hill, and it's got a beautiful sea view, and there's a load of benches, park benches along there, and somebody had all wrapped up in food bags. I put a book on every single one for you to take, and I just thought that was just so lovely. So there's lovely things happening. There's lots of lovely things happening. And there's also bastard cyclists. But, you know, if you're a bastard cyclist, then get on the road. No one be mad at you. So, yeah, apart from that, we're all well. We're doing okay. Cracking on with it. There's a really weird situation where I've come to sit down to talk to you, and the baby's in bed and the teenager is in her room. Quarantine making absolutely no difference to her life whatsoever. And husband's gone off out the way, and it's suddenly so quiet down here that I can hear the kitchen clock ticking so loudly. It's driving us mad. So if you can hear the kitchen clock ticking and it's driving you mad, I'm really sorry. It's weird. So quiet. Yeah, that's it. Nothing to report because we've been nowhere. Seen nobody. But I have done a tiny little bit of reading. I've listened to some stuff. I've watched quite a bit of stuff. And I've done a bit of knitting as well. Oh, I didn't bring the cardi I finished. Sorry, I'm looking behind to see if I might have. Hold that thought. Yes, I found it. So yes, I've got a little bit of knitting to show you as well. Now, I'm going to start with reading, as I do. I don't know about you, I'm struggling with reading. I really am. Sorry, I'm kicking a chair if you can hear that. I'm really struggling. I'm finding it hard to settle. So once I'd finished the book I think I talked about last time, I scrolling through trying to find something new to read, and I've got a big to be read pile of books that I'm excited about, and it's just not happening. What I have read is I've read one thing for work, which is Breakfast at Tiffany's. Haven't read that since the early 20s probably, and I picked it for work's book group, and turns out the casual racism in it is so there's that. Um, we can say it's of its time because it was written a very long time ago. It doesn't excuse it, but there you go. And the only other thing that I'm reading is, if I was going to have a guilty pleasure, which I don't because I'm not guilty or embarrassed about anything or very, very little, then it would be Nora Roberts. So the American writer Nora Roberts, she writes mostly romance, sometimes with a tinge of murder, and sometimes with a tinge of magic, and sometimes with a mixture of both. And this is one of our magic ones, and it's, you know, it's about what I can manage right now, and I'm enjoying it. It was 99p on the Kindle store. My husband did tell us today that Kindle Unlimited is free for the next 2 months, so if you are looking for something to read, there you go, you can maybe have a look at that as well, because I'm going to have a look tomorrow, see if I can find something that I fancy. But yeah, is it just me with the attention span? Are you struggling as well? It's not just me, and I'm just such a vicarious reader usually, so this is an odd one. I'm not reading my 2000 AD because they haven't arrived. I've been in touch with 2000 AD. I'm waiting to hear back from them. I think probably the problem is we're hardly getting any post. I don't know what it's like where you are, but we are really maybe getting post once or twice a week, if that. It was only once last week, so I'm not mad about it. You know, they're doing the best they can. Undoubtedly they have staff shortages, so you know, it is what it is. But I haven't had any progs anyway, so I can't talk to you about them, and I can't read them, and probably I could anyway. Such is life. So that's all I've got to tell you. I read nothing I could really recommend you either, because one's kind of like a trashy romance. Oh, I say trashy, but I love this. I love a bit of trashy romance. There's Mills and Boons on my shelf. I'm not embarrassed about that. I love a bit of trashy romance. Feel bad saying trashy? Pulpy, maybe. I don't know what the correct term is, but every now and again, just, you know, it's uplifting. Quite often filthy. I quite like that in a book. But I have done a little bit of listening, so I did finish the Dresden Files completely on audio. James Masters is no longer whispering me to sleep, and I'm missing him already. That last one I really enjoyed, Cold Days. I really enjoyed. It was fun. It was fun and funny, and it did move the arc forward, but it could have been outside of the arc as well in some ways, and I just really enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a proper magic heist, with all double crossing going on left, right and centre, and it was just great, and I really enjoyed it. One of the things I do tend to do with audiobooks is I do tend to listen to books that I've already read, because sometimes the way my brain functions is that I don't take it in as much when it's being read to us. So if I already know the story, I'm more likely to keep up. And sometimes if I've really struggled to listen to brand new books that I haven't read, and so but I really do enjoy having a book that I've read back to us. I don't know if anybody else is like this. Is one of my quirks. But if there's a book I really want to read, then I would never get it on audiobook first. I would always read it first, and then maybe if I was, you know, interested, I would get the audiobook later on. But some books that I'm not that invested in, then I'll get audiobook first. But I do tend to skip out, zone out. So, but I do enjoy it. So I thought this time I would listen to another series, another urban fantasy series that I'm a huge fan of, and this one is the Felix Castor books by Mike Carey. Mike Carey is a fabulous writer. He writes comics, he writes books. His novel, The Girl with All the Gifts, was made into a movie in the last few years. So he's a fantastic writer, absolutely fantastic. But the Felix Castor stories are just wonderful. If you're going to compare them with anything, you could compare them with the comic Constantine Hellblazer, because Felix Castor is a exorcist, and he's from Liverpool as well, so there's that. And he's, you know, quick talking, always in trouble, always getting his backside kicked, being cheeky, but he's got his own moral code. It's not the same as other people's moral codes, but it's, you know, and I love those books. They've got such atmosphere, and it is a really interesting arc as well, except for he stopped writing them. And we've been waiting for the next one, and he's been writing all these brilliant books that have been turned into movies and what have you, but like, come on, I need a bit of Felix. And like, I'm not going to lie, like, much like Harry Dresden, I'm half in love with Felix. He's just, there's something about him, just... Yes, another fictional character, fancy. But I love the characters in it as well. I love his friendship group. Their sort of reoccurring characters are really well done. Some of them terrifying, some of them comedic, some of them really irritating. Pen, only actually not quite as irritating listening to as reading is a character called Pen, who was his landlady in the first book, and they've been friends since uni. So love this series, loved it. I've read it multiple times. I have all the books up here somewhere. Over there. Audiobook. I've forgotten to write down the narrator's name, and it's on my phone that I'm talking to you on, so I can't look it up. But I'm not mad keen on the narrator, and it is having a bit of a effect, you know, and the narrator's not good, or not your cup of tea, because he's telling a good story, but his accent is weird, and I think he's probably American doing an English accent, and that accent is not, I might be wrong about this as well, but this is what it sounds like to me, is that it's an American doing an English accent. Even with James Masters, when he's doing an English accent, which he's very, 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 very good at, there's certain words that he says that you can pick up that he's much better, though. This guy's the same as certain words, but the accent's a little bit all over the place, and his pacing is a little bit odd, and I think I would probably love to listen to the same guy reading something that's not in an English accent. And the other thing is that Fix is supposed to be a Scouser, and he's not. I mean, I couldn't do a Scouse accent. All I could do is the Jimmy Carr thing where he says, I want a chicken and a can of Coke, which is no good for audio narration, darling. So, you know, fair enough not having a crack at the Scouse, but it's just a bit odd. So I'm not sure if I'll be getting the next one on audiobook. I think I'd prefer to pull the book down off the shelf and reread it if it's the same guy who's done the narration for the next one. And it's a bit of a shame, because like I say, I don't think he's a bad narrator. I think it's just there's something about his delivery that's pulling me out of the story, because I'm thinking about his delivery and his accent rather than paying attention to the story, which is, you know, not what you want. So there's that. I have a couple more. Oh, do you know as well, I've started re-listening to it. I've listened to it about 7 times. Is the Remains of the Day, by, I can't say, Kazuo Ishiguro. I haven't got his first name right. It is an absolute favourite book of mine. Absolute. And I think the narrator might be Dominic West, and he's perfect. It's just the perfect combination of narrator and story, and I listen to it over and over and over again. There's also a really, really good audible version of Rebecca, which I've listened to multiple times. So if you're looking for something to read, I'm not sure I would recommend The Devil You Know unless things like that, accents and things don't bother you, in which case you'll love the story. It's great. But if you're looking for something to get real hooked into, then there's I'll put links in my blog. There's a particular version of Rebecca that is just amazing, absolutely amazing, and the Remains of the Day is just fabulous. It's just fabulous. The Remains of the Day is just such a beautiful, beautifully written, sad, wonderful book. Anyway, that's by the by. So I'm re-listening to that again for about the 7th or 8th time. It's just wonderful. I've read it a lot. Certain favourites, isn't it? I am big on rereading. I know there's other people who have massive to read piles and they don't reread books, but I do. I get absolute pleasure out of rereading books that I've loved. I always find something new in it every single time. Even on multiple, and I am a multiple rereader. Is it just me? Do you do that too? Or are you no, that's it, it's done, on to the next? Where do you lie? I've got so many books to read, new ones, but sometimes I don't want a new one, I want an old one. So that's what I've been listening to. Anyway, I'm going to shuffle, sorry. The biggest list is my watched list. I've watched a lot of stuff. Because I think we're all are, really, aren't we? We're all watching a lot of stuff. And I'm catching up with stuff, and there's a few things that I've remembered that I really want to see. So I'm getting them, like, make myself a little list so I don't forget. But the first thing that I watched was Stan Against Evil. So I'd watched the first series a couple of years ago and loved it. It's very short episodes, and the story is there's a little town in America, and the policeman hundreds of years ago was a witch, but it was part of some ritual or something. He burned 144 people as witches, and they've all come back as demons, and they kill whoever the sheriff of the town is off. So all the sheriffs of the town have been murdered in horrible, horrible ways, except for the last one, Stan, who is still alive. And he's played by John C. McKinley from Scrubs and like that war film everybody likes. I don't like war films of any nature. And he's an amazing comedic actor, full stop. He is. I've got a bit of a crush on him as well, actually. Does that whistle thing. I'm like, Anyway, he's Stan and he's still alive. And the reason he's still alive is because his wife practiced magic and she was fighting off all the demons that come to kill him. But then she dies of a heart attack. And that's where the series starts. So he's been fired from being sheriff after his wife died because his behaviour is dreadful. He's horrible. He's a proper lazy. He breaks the law all the time. He's lazy. He just wants to sit in his underpants and watch sports and drink beer. That's who he is. And he keeps getting dragged into all this stuff so unwillingly. So anyway, a new sheriff's kit has come to the town and she is fabulous. Evie. And now they're trying to kill her, but they're still trying to kill Stan because he kind of got away with it. So every week, they're very short episodes. There's like a demon of the week they have to kill, and some of them are hilarious. Some of them are still a tiny little bit scary if you're a massive, big, gigantic wuss. Like some people I could mention, but I won't because they might get embarrassed. It's so fun. It's so fun. And so we watched series 2 and series 3, which didn't take up a huge amount of time, I have to say. I think we'll watch series 3 in a night or a night and a half, because they are short episodes. The cast is immaculate. Some of the effects are dreadful, but that adds to it. It's like a real niche thing, I think. But it's so funny and so brilliant, and the cast is outstanding, so I think you should all go and watch it. The sad thing is that it was cancelled, so it didn't get, it sort of was wrapped up a bit, but not really. It was definitely left open for another series, and I'm really, really angry, in fact, that I'm a bit sad there's no more Stand Against Evil. It's so good and so funny. It really is lacking on morals in almost every respect. Sometimes that's fun. So yes, so I watched that. Another series that I've watched over the last couple of weeks is called One Mississippi, and it's not really geeky at all. This is a series that is semi-autobiographical about the life of the comedian Tig Notaro, which I'm sure I've talked about her before, to you, and her wife Stephanie Allen. And so it does, I don't know how much of it is actually fact, but I know there's quite a lot of it because I've read her autobiography and seen some documentaries about it. So I do know quite a bit of it's real or fact. But it's wonderful, but it's also quite hot. It's another sort of 20-minute episodes. And the first few are really hard going because in the first couple of episodes, Tig's mum dies and they're in the hospital and stuff, and there's definite dark humour there, absolute definite dark humour, but also quite heartbreaking as well. Some of the episodes are so heartbreaking that you're like ugly crying, and then some dry remark is made that'll have you laughing, crying, and it's like that all the way through. Like funny and heart aching and heartbreaking, and the cast is amazing. Nobody that I'd heard of apart from Tig and Stephanie Allen. Oh, John Hoffman, is that his name? He was in Ghostbusters. I recognised him, but not anybody else that I knew. But it's just this amazing storytelling in this little place, and it was cancelled and it's unfinished, and I really finished it last night, and I was a little bit heartbroken. I was a little bit heartbroken that I'm not going to find out what's happened to those characters, and that was left right really not ended, and I hate that. Give them an episode or 2 episodes, let them wrap it up. I hate that. So I'm very cross with Amazon because it was on Amazon Prime. Very cross that they cancelled it, because apparently this is the reason why they cancelled it. They wanted to focus on producing their own sort of Game of Thrones type production. Why? Seriously? I have to be honest, I've never watched Game of Thrones because, well, I saw the first 2 episodes, but I'd read the first 4 books or something, so I knew what was going to happen, and then waiting for it to happen and the tension and stuff, and then knowing it was going to happen, and I didn't find that comfortable, and I found that I was like on the edge of the seat waiting for something to happen, and it did happen, but then how stressed I got waiting for it to happen. I never claimed not to be weird. So yeah, I might go back to it at some point. It's been long enough now since I read the books that very little of it's probably retained in my face. I get away with watching it. Sorry, I kicked the chair again. I'm such an arsehole. So yeah, but One Mississippi, if you're just looking for something, it like I say, it can be a little bit hard going, but like emotionally, not because it's bad or this is, it can be a little bit emotionally hard going, but worth it. It's just fabulous. It's just fabulous. I loved it. Don't know what else to tell you. It's wonderful. Real clip of what living in a small town in America is like. Is if you're gay. It touches on homophobia. It touches on harassment. It touches on death. It touches on racism. It's just not. It's so totally unafraid to do that, and I just loved it. Just loved it. Anyway, I'm getting gushy, so I'll stop. I'm going to cough now as well. It's not corona. Sorry. Thirsty. It's probably awful for you watching me drink tea as well. Sorry, yes, it is tea. I've run out of tonic. Don't you like to buy 3 bottles at a time? I like half a bottle of tonic in my gin. No tonic left. Sad times. Anyway, today with the little one, I watched Toy Story 4. The little one is obsessed with Toy Story. We've watched Toy Story 1, 2 and 3. It's pretty much all I've watched. Over and over and over again. Sometimes we'll get a Moana break, which is nice because I really love Moana. Sometimes we'll get Beauty and the Beast. But mostly it's Toy Story, Toy Story, Toy Story. Yeah. But we hadn't watched 4. So me and her watched 4 today, and this is what I think about 4. So obviously it came out a little while ago. Most people who wouldn't have seen it would have seen it. So I am going to spoilers. This film is unnecessary and it diminishes the franchise. Oh, turns out I've got quite strong feelings about this. Toy Story 3, I thought, I lost that really traumatic bit where I like ugly cried in the cinema. It ended so perfectly. So perfectly. The story was finished. So number one, what is the point of Toy Story 4? It's a cash cow, possibly. Was the demand so great? And even if it was, having an adult to say no. We have other stories to tell, because there wasn't even really a story. There was no, the way it ended, I just didn't agree with. I don't understand. I just don't understand. I don't understand. What I will say is the animation is absolutely stunning, and the little one wanted to watch Toy Story 1 immediately after it finished watching Toy Story 4. And you can see such, I mean, obviously it was a long time between the 2 movies, but it's so stunning. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. It's exquisite, the animation. That's not the problem. The problem is they messed with the story that had ended to make it end not as beautifully as it had ended. And I don't see why. If there was some sort of, sometimes there's a lesson to be learned, and I think there was a lesson in Toy Story 3, was that, you know, kids grow up and then move on, and toys can do the same. And you know, they went into a new home and found a new family and they were happy. That should have been the end. I am going to spoil it. So what happens in Toy Story 4 is that it turns out the little girl who they go and live with, even though she was besotted with Woody at the end of Toy Story 3, doesn't really like Woody, doesn't play with Woody. She plays with all the other toys, but she doesn't play with Woody. And Woody's sad. And they go on a trip, they get lost and all this stuff, and he reunites with Bo Peep from the first 2. And instead of going home with his kid, he decides to go off and be a lost toy and leave all of the other toys who he's been cared for this whole time. I mean, people move on and kids move on and what have you, fair enough, but wasn't this story just ended beautifully? Toy Story 3. I mean, this has added nothing and separated Woody from his friends and his kid, and Buzz his best friend, and I got the end and I was like, oh, you're fucking kidding. And quite likely we won't watch it again. The little one there wasn't enough of anything really. It seemed really lackadaisical magical storytelling all the way through. There's some ventriloquist dummies that were terrifying, but I just don't get it. I don't get it. And if you liked it, I'm really happy for you, but I didn't like it, and I don't understand it. So there you go. There's that. So if you haven't watched it, you probably won't want to watch it. Otherwise, make your own decisions. Everybody has their own opinions, and I didn't like it. So there. What else? We started to watch. I had never even heard of this, but when I finished One Mississippi yesterday, because that was my choice, then the husband has to choose the next thing to watch, and he put this thing on, and it's called Future Man. And I don't know if you've heard of it or if you've seen it. I'd never heard of it. There's nobody I really am too aware with. Apparently the lead guy was in the Hunger Games, but it's just chock full of homages to science fiction movies and television series, and the basic premise is the same as The Last Starfighter, which they cop to immediately. So he's a janitor and he has a shit job, and he still lives with his mum and dad, and he's obsessed with playing video games. He beats this unbeatable game, and the characters from the game come back because they say it's a recruitment video, and he's like, that's The Last Starfighter. But that is the premise. They've come, they think he's this great saviour who's going to save the future, and he's just a little bit rubbish, but they're completely bonkers. So it just leads, it's so far, it's been outrageously funny, a little bit filthy, naughty, which I love, but if that's not your cup of tea, then you might want to avoid it. But it's interesting, it's funny, the characters are great, absolutely great, and I can't wait to watch more of it, which is what I'll be doing when I finish talking to you. So if you're watching it, let us know what you think, because I'm really, really enjoying it. It's funny, so I hope it stays up this level. I don't know how many series, if this is just the first series. Well, it is the first series, but I don't know if there's more, because I've honestly never heard of it. Any of you guys watching it? Am I just sadly out of the loop these days? Probably, but no one's mentioned it to us. So, I rely on you people to tell me what I should be watching. So, come on, up the game here. Very recommended, but there's naughtiness. I am still watching Series 6, rewatching Series 6 of Elementary. I am building myself up to watch the last series. Anyway, I have nothing to add or anything to say so far, except for it's just wonderful. I just love it, and I will rewatch the whole thing again, undoubtedly, in another couple of years. But I've still got a couple of episodes left of season 6, and I watch it like, do you know when I watch it? When I go to bed early. That's what I do. I take tea and knit, and then I go up and have an elementary, and that's my time. Couple of other things I want to mention. So geeky stuff. And this one comes under both things that I watched and geeky other stuff. The other night, I just really found it hard to settle. I couldn't choose anything to watch. I've got tons of stuff backed up to watch. Couldn't settle to read. I knit the same 4 lines of knitting over and over again because I kept making a mistake and having to pull it back out, so I couldn't even knit, and I just really couldn't tell you. I mean, I know we're all sort of a little bit I don't know, it's not like I wanted to go out, but I just couldn't settle. And my lovely friend Jimmy Aquino from Comic News Insider sent us a tweet and said, oh well, if you're not doing anything, I'm doing a Zoom, why don't you watch it? So he was doing a Zoom recording, like for a podcast, with David Monteith from the Geek Syndicate and Heidi McDonald from The Beat, and John Hosh, I don't know quite how to say John's name, who is often a guest on Jimmy's podcast. And they were talking about the film Flash Gordon, and that's basically all it was. It was the four of them chatting, going over the film, tidbits behind, like Jimmy, I think Jimmy and Heidi had both, and David all interviewed various members of the cast. So I think Dave and Barry had interviewed Brian Blessed, and Jimmy had interviewed Melody Thingy, who's Dale. Possibly Heidi had interviewed Sam Johnson. They'd watched the documentary about the making of it, and this was just like a geek in. And do you know what? It was just what I needed. We just sat and watched it on my phone and loved every second. And that's obviously just what I needed, was some geeky time. I just needed some geeks. So I know they're ripping the audio from it, and they're going to make it available, if they haven't already, as an audio podcast. And I'll find links and put them on the blog. Apparently they've done another one a week or so earlier, a couple of weeks ago, about the Evil Dead. And obviously that is my husband's absolute passion. It is that's his big thing, you know. It's he ran a website for 20 years about the Evil Dead, and still maintains a Facebook group, and we've got Evil Dead stuff everywhere. It's his big thing. So he found it quite hard to listen to it because he kept wanting to chip in, but we listened to that one straight afterwards as well. So thank you, Jimmy and the guys, for letting me pop in and watch that, because it really was just what I needed. And sometimes it's nice to remind yourself that you're a geek as well, which is why I started doing this in the first place, was that I felt like I was losing my personality a little bit into being a mum and not much else. So it was really nice. It was just really nice to watch the guys absolutely geek out. And I try and convince Jimmy to let me come on. But I did. I loved it. It was really fab. And along those lines as well, since last I talked to you, I did an episode of the Mega City Book Club with the gorgeous, wonderful Eamon Clark, talking about one of my favourite Judge Dredd books called The Pit. If you're interested in listening to that, that's available now. I've put it on all my social media, but I'll put links to it in the blog post tomorrow when I put the blog post up. So if you're interested, I really enjoyed doing that and chatting about 2000 AD and Judge Dredd, which is a massive big passion of mine, which I've lost sight of over the last couple of years since we had the baby, and it was just so good to chat about it, and I love that book anyway. So when you're passionate about something, it's really fun to talk to somebody else who's passionate about it, and I really enjoyed it. So that's an audio podcast, and I'll let you know in the blog. Upcoming, what we're going to be watching is we are really behind with one of our joint favourite things to watch, which is Supernatural. So we were struggling to find it on the internet. So Dut's actually bought the DVD, and that came this week. So we're going to be starting season 14, which is the penultimate season of Supernatural, which I have mixed feelings about. Like, it's 15 seasons is a lot, you know, so I understand why they're not making it anymore, but they still make really good stories, and I just love it so much, and it's funny and lovely, and when you've spent that much time with characters, it's kind of hard to let them go, isn't it? And maybe that's why we've put off watching series 14, knowing then the next one's the last one. Sometimes do you do that? Like, if you're really enjoying a book, once you get towards the end, do you start reading it more slowly, or spacing out the last few episodes of a series because you don't want it to end I do that, and I think probably we've been doing that a little bit. But DVD's here now, so watch this space. Talk about that as and when we watch it. Oh, I do love Supernatural. We did in fact go to a Supernatural convention, which cost more money than our fucking house, I think. A couple of years ago before Ari. I've been to a lot of comic conventions. I've been to very few sci-fi conventions. I've been to a couple. My first ever convention was the first SFX event, which was in Blackpool in 2001. That was the first one. I'm trying to think if I'd been anything before that. I don't think I had. And I went with my sister, and we just got arseholed the whole time. We didn't do any of the things that apparently you're supposed to do. We didn't get autographs. We didn't get photographs. We didn't hardly buy anything. We spent the whole weekend pissed as farts sitting in the panel room, and we had an absolutely great time. And we were one of the first, I think if you were first 75 people to buy a ticket, you got invited to a VIP party on the first night. So I got to meet James Masters, I got to meet Victoria Pratt, I met Paul Goddard, I met Joe Pantoliano, who likes to be called Joey Pants. In that room was my now very, very, very good friend, Sally, but I didn't meet her. Also my sister's, the guy who later she met and married and fell madly in love with, he was in that room as well. We didn't meet him either. Small world, isn't it? Weird. So yeah, we met all these people. We had an absolutely outrageously fantastic time, but we didn't do any of the convention stuff, the photographs and the queuing. Just didn't do it. And comic conventions aren't the same. You know, there's very little queuing really, and I hate queuing. I hate it. But we went to a Supernatural convention. We spent the entire first day queuing. We had to queue to pick up our tickets to get into another queue to buy photo opportunities and autograph opportunities. We spent it was something ridiculous, like 9 hours queuing, and I was just like, we've paid a small fortune to be here just to sit on the floor queuing. I hated it. They also treat you like thick, naughty children as well. When you were queuing for a photo, you weren't allowed to have your phone. If they saw you with your phone out, you were kicked out of the queue and you lost whatever money that you had paid. But they were also given all updates via Twitter. So everything that was happening at the con, and they were moving things around and changing it, but you weren't allowed to look at Twitter, their method of conversation. Oh God, I still get mad when I think about it. We did end up having a nice time, but I said I would never do it again, ever, ever. I'm all about the Comic Cons. There's a much more friendlier feeling to a comic convention, like an actual comic convention, not like a telefilm convention that's called Comic Con. I mean an actual comic convention. There's just a wonderful atmosphere to those things. They're friendly, they're accessible, you can talk to people. There's only queuing for like the big massive names, and not always in those cases, and you can have proper conversations. Anyway, by the by, why am I talking about this? I can't remember why I got into this, so I will just come back off it. I've got some knitting to show you, and then I want to get out of your faces. So, one, I did show you the Cardi that I'd started to knit for Ari last week and last time, so it's a fortnight ago, and that's finished. And it's, excuse it because it's been on her several times, so it's a little bit rumpled. But this is it. This is the Cardi. It is a little bit too big for her, so I've folded the sleeves up, but it's actually good because it'll last her a bit longer. It's absolutely lovely. This pattern is called Gidday, like the Australian greeting. I've put these little buttons on that are just so super cute there. Ari picked them. They are, where's the camera? Octopus. There's a garter stitch yoke in the pattern. This is 2 coloured stripes, but I just wanted it all out of this very light grey colour, which is not really showing up Excuse me. It's so soft and so squidgy. And it's just what I wanted it to be. Just chuck on, go for a walk along the seafront. It's going to be perfect when we're allowed to go back down to the beach, and she loves being in the sea, and you know, for to chuck on when she's to walk home when she's just damp. And that's kind of what I was thinking about for, which is why I've got the little sea themed buttons, and I'm really, really pleased with it. It's such a lovely pattern to knit, and it's got a massive range of sizes, so I think I did pay for the pattern, but I've already knit, this is the third time I've knit it, so I've really had my money's worth out of it, and I'll knit it for her again as soon as this one starts to not fit her. I will knit this cardigan again for her in the next size. So it's just such a lovely cardi and so practical, and I like that it doesn't button all the way down. I mean, I think you can probably choose to button it all the way down, but I think it's much more practical for kids just to have the top and then leave that bit open. I do have to fasten Ari into cardis because otherwise she just takes them off. She likes to strip. I don't know where she gets it from. Really don't. So after I finished that, I started another cardigan. This is it is a cardigan, not a jumper, and it's knit from the top down. And it's a little bit hard to see at the minute because it's a lot of stitches and you can maybe barely see. So it's pretty much at the same point as I showed you that cardigan last week. So this is the top of the sleeve here, and then you can see the this part will be the here. This is the back and the sleeve cap and front here. So what's happening at the moment is I'm just increasing because this is sort of the widest part of you. So you need to start off quite with a few stitches and increase. And once we get to about here, which is the sort of widest part of you, I'll take off stitches for the sleeves and then knit down the body and come back and knit the sleeves when I'm done. Exactly the same, just the sort of top down process as for the little cardi. This is a pattern because I could probably have figured it out for myself, I just didn't want to, but this is a free pattern on the website Ravelry, and it's called the Effortless Cardigan. It has got pockets on it as well, which I'm looking forward to. In the pattern it comes down to sort of just below the hip, but I'm actually going to knit it just to my waist, sort of a slight crop, but not like a crop. I'm doing that, but that makes no difference to you because you can't see where my hands are. You just see boob action. Sorry about that. It's just all boob. I'm just going to knit it to the waist because that's all I want. I'm still put the pockets in though for my phone and my keys when I walk down to the beach. The wool is it is nice. I've totally gone funny light, but I mean I don't know that you can see that properly. It is like a humbug. If I show you the ball, I wonder if that's, but nah, it's just, oh yeah, kind of that. Sort of like a pale brown and cream. And it's a Rowan Pure Life organic wool. And so it's a little bit rustic, but not itchy. Definitely woolly, which is just what I wanted. This stuff is no longer made, but at the time it was really quite expensive, except for I bought it in the sale, so there should be plenty enough to make my cardigan and probably a bit left over for maybe a hat if I'm lucky or something like that. But so this is going to be for me. It's my size. I think I'm making the size 46, which is a full bust measurement, and I'm enjoying it. It's just really easy, and it's called an effortless cardigan because it's simple. It's going to go with everything, and it's just what I wanted. The other thing I'm knitting at the moment is another cardigan for Ari, and this is not simple or easy or effortless, but it is going to be really pretty. I'm knitting it out of this wool, which is Drops the Sky. I don't usually buy Drops wool because I think they have really dubious practices. Things like a new pattern will come out and it'll be really popular, and they'll make a very similar pattern and make it available for free. And I think it's a bit dubious. Obviously, my morals go out the window when the pretty sea green yarn that I need for my patterns on sale. I'm ashamed of myself. The other thing about Drops yarn is that it's very nice and it's very, very, very budget friendly. However, then they do these slightly dubious things. I don't buy from them very often, but I really shouldn't buy from them at all, but never mind. This is how much I've knit so far, and you can see it's an open lace and cable. I don't know if you can see that. Open lace and cable pattern, and it's knit in pieces for a kid's cardigan. Honest to fucking God, what was I thinking? Anyway, so this is just the back, so I'll also have to knit the front and the other front, and then do a button band and collar. Don't usually knit cardigans in pieces for children because they only fit them for a very limited amount of time. However, I fell in love with a pattern. I have this beautiful book called Labour of Love. It's an absolutely stunningly beautiful book, and it's by Vibe Ulrich Sundergaard, and it's 20 knitting patterns, mostly aimed at little girls, and the sizes are between ages 3 and to 7 to 8, so it's quite a narrow range. So I bought this book after Tala was too big for any of them to fit, so I've not knit anything out of it, and I've bought wool to knit 2 things. So sorry about my throat. I've bought the wool to make this one, which is not the one I'm making right now, but that's going to be the next one that I knit, and that is called the Zoe Fan Stitch Jacket. And then so the wool came for that the other day, which is a Sublime one. Now I'm going to show you this picture. However, the styling of the little girl really bothers us, but that's the cardigan. It's so pretty. That's the other picture though. Thicker makeup and stuff. Oh, it makes us feel a little bit uncomfortable. So this is called Maggie Grandpa Cardigan, and it is lovely. It's really, really nice. And just see Ari in it. So it's probably going to take us an awful long time to knit it, because as I say, it's knit. This is what I was knitting when I ended up going into the flash zoom the other day. I'd knit 3 pattern repeats. So that's 1 pattern repeat from there to there, from there to there, and there to there. I'd done 3 and not a single one of them lined up. It was so wrong. It was just so wrong, and all up here I don't know what the hell I did. And I had to pull it all the way back to that little bit of ribbon at the bottom. Oh. It was the right thing to do though. So now I've done 2. And it takes ages. It is really fiddly. So there's a tiny little cable here on the end, then there's some lace, then there's like a fat cable, a thin cable, fat cable and lace, and it is so fiddly. And this tiny little cable right on the end stitches, which I don't understand why, because you're just going to be sewing that to the sides. So I keep thinking maybe I should just knit those 3 stitches rather than keep cabling them, because actually it's going to make it quite hard to seam. How bad are my roots? God, quick, let's all go out. Need a hair done. Anyway, that's what I'm knitting. If you have any questions about the knitting, please get in touch, because I don't think I'm doing a very good job of explaining it, but never really have anyone to talk to knitting about. We do, a couple of my friends knit, but not many, and not hardcore like me, so it's nice to be able to talk about it, but sometimes it means I don't really know what you would want to hear about, if any of it. Some of you will not be interested at all and they've left, but never mind. Anyway, that's about all I've got to talk to you about this time. It's quite a lot, really, isn't it? If you want to be in touch with me, please do so on Twitter. I'm Stace_W, or on Instagram where I'm Whittle Waffle. Please comment, tell us what you like, what you didn't like, tell us what you're reading, tell us if you're struggling to read as much as I am. Get in touch. I'll also do the blog, so if you need us, you can get us that way as well. Feel free to get in touch, and yeah, I think that's all I've got to say. So take care, stay safe, and I'll speak to you soon.